Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
Students in that way. After students arrive, we also provide compliance in terms of the enrollment. We also let students know what they can or cannot do in order to maintain their status here. So our office assists with those areas as well. And we provide additional support in terms of if students need to get a driver's license, if the students want to apply for a social security number, all different kinds of things. And last but not least, we share information with the students about employment on campus, which we know is something students certainly want to do. Our office will host seminars throughout the semester, throughout the year actually, to inform students about their employment options. Speaking of employment, there are different types of employment that students can do while they are in the United States. There are two main options. The first one is on-campus employment, which is open to any student, and they can apply for that as soon as they arrive. There is basically no requirement in terms of the type of work that they can do and the length of time they have to wait to do the employment. Off-campus employment is slightly different. Off-campus employment can be subdivided into 4 different categories: CPT, pre-completion OPT, post-completion OPT, and STEM extension. All these different options require different types of approvals, and basically what they do, in a very basic sense, is that they allow students to work off-campus. The government of the United States is very mindful of students working off-campus, and for that reason, they monitor off-campus employment much more closely than on-campus employment. So for that reason, any type of off-campus employment has to get authorization prior to their start. Just to give everybody a better understanding of these options, there are different types, of course, as we said, of employment. The first one that we mentioned is CPT. CPT stands for Curricular Practical Training, and basically students have an opportunity to work off campus, as we mentioned, but they are full-time students at NJIT. They are seeking a degree here, and they can work off campus they can work full-time or part-time. And the key thing about CPT is that they must have a job offer prior to their starting the job. So basically, students have a chance to work only after they have been able to secure a position. For this type of employment, which you can do while you're studying at NJIT, you will work closely with our Career Development Services, which is our office that helps students find jobs. So the main idea is that you'll be applying what you're learning at NJIT at a company that you're working for at the same time that you're studying. For this particular option of employment, off-campus employment, students have to study at NJIT for at least 1 semester before they can even apply for that. So it's not an option that you can just get here and immediately get a job and start working. It doesn't work that way. So CPT would allow you to study and work at the same time, but you must have spent at least a semester at NJIT, and you must have a job offer prior to your starting the job. The other option, as we mentioned, is OPT. OPT provides students with up to 12 months of full-time employment. They can be done before or after they graduate. That is why we call it pre-completion or post-completion. There are 2 different options. If you do OPT pre-completion, that means that you apply for employment before you graduate. And if you do post-completion, you already graduated from NJIT, and then you can work. Now, there is a maximum amount of 12 months that you can use this benefit for. So you cannot work for more than 12 months under OPT. Now, if you notice OPT and CPT, there is a difference in terms of where you submit your application to. OPT, the students must submit the application to the government. The government will make a decision to allow students to work or not. As CPT, our office, in conjunction with the Career Development Services, the employment office on campus, will make that decision. So CPT does require the government to allow you to work. So it's a process that can take up to 3 months, depending on the government's workload. As CPT is a much faster process because we make a decision on campus. Now, it's important to notice that many students think that OPT it's a separate visa category, which it's not. Even after you graduate and you're working full time, you're still under the same student visa. So you're still a student. The university is still responsible for you. So when the students are working under the student visa category, the government still considers the students to be a student. And because OPT, many times students apply for that after they graduate, you're not required to have an employment offer at the time that you apply. Many students, as a matter of fact, they apply before they graduate, a few months before they graduate, and we'll go over this in a little bit more detail in the following slide. But basically, you can apply before you graduate to start employment after you graduate. So for that reason, you don't have to have a job offer. Now, the other option that many students know about and they have questions about is the STEM extension, or what we call STEM OPT. Basically, some degrees in the science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM programs, they can apply for a 24-month extension of their 12-month OPT. So basically, you would have 36 months of employment after you graduate, depending on your major. And our office will assist students with the paperwork that they have to fill out before they submit it to the government. This is also, again, because it's OPT, it's also a type of employment that the government has to approve. CPT is the only type of off-campus employment that an office, on-campus office, can approve. Apart from that, the government needs to be involved because they like to monitor very closely the type of employment the students are doing. Now, all these types of employment, CPT, OPT, or STEM OPT, the employment that students do off campus must be related to their major at NJIT. So if your major is engineering, you have to find a job related to the major. You cannot find a job at a bank, for example, being a teller or a cashier. It has to be something related to your major, and our office provides advice to students to clarify what kinds of, not only what kind of employment they can do, but also the type of documentation they have to provide to the government to allow them to get this permission to work. Now, I mentioned how this works in terms of our offices working together, and I wanted to highlight that NJIT has excellent job prospect for students. Certainly, as any university in the United States, we cannot guarantee a job to anyone, but we certainly work very hard to make sure students have an opportunity to work off campus. We have a number of jobs posted on our student portal, which you have access to when you get here, and you are able to apply to get information, I should say, and also apply to these jobs online through our student portal. We also have major events on campus, 2 major events every year. They are our career fairs, and we have over the course of the year, over 500 plus, I'd say 550 employers come to the campus to meet with the students, to interview them, to recruit them. The companies that come to our campus are really major companies. For example, Google, Adobe, Microsoft, Windows. We have companies like Boeing. We have really big companies coming here to recruit our students because they know the quality of the student who is graduating from NJIT. So what we have put in place is really great opportunities for students to have a chance to meet with those employers, interview with them, and really get a job. And we see a very high number of students from NJIT as they graduate, they have 3 job offers at the time they graduate. So it's really incumbent on the student to make sure that he or she is prepared for the job fair, so when the opportunity comes, they know what to do. Throughout the years, the Office of Career Development Services, they offer a number of workshops preparing students for those job interviews. We have workshops about how to write your resume, how to dress for an interview, how to act during the interview, how to answer to questions. So we have many things put in place to make sure students are prepared when the job interview comes, they know how to act. But then again, it's really important that students participate in those workshops and those seminars so they are prepared for those opportunities. The companies, as I mentioned, that are coming here are companies that are known around the world. They have offices around the world. And we see that students really go, after they graduate, many of them don't even stay in New Jersey. They are transferred to companies around the country, and that's where they do their OPT. So coming to NJIT, don't think that you'll be in New Jersey the entire time, even though it's a very nice place to live. But don't think you'll be at NJIT at New Jersey the entire time, because you may as well be transferred to another location, either inside the United States or around the world. The companies that come here are really large corporations. Now, we certainly make sure that when the students are getting those job interviews, they are getting those good positions. And we have seen the results where students are making 6-figure salaries, but it really depends on the student's preparation. Because as you're coming to NJIT and you want to get that job, there are the students here who also are looking for that job. So it's important that you keep up your grades, that you get involved in research if you can. If you have different kinds of experiences on campus that allow you to develop your leadership skills, all those things should be taken into account when you're looking for those jobs. Those companies are looking for that. So what we recommend is, as you're looking for those high-paying jobs, as most students are, to be honest, it's important that you prepare yourself for the first year and a half that you're here, that you put your resume together, that you get involved on campus. Because there are people competing for those jobs. Not everybody will get 3 job offers. Some students get 1, some students get 2. And some students will take 2 months for them to get the first one. So it's really important that you prepare yourself while you're here, while you're studying, so when the opportunity comes, you really have a chance to get the job. Now, in terms of how this works, is basically we created here a timeline, so you kind of have a feel for what you could expect when you come to NJIT. So within the first 2 years, within 2 years of graduation, for example, as you arrive, let's just say this fall and the next full year and a half, so you're going to contact CDS to learn the Career Development Services, or as we call them, CDS, to learn about how to write resumes, how the interview process works. You're going to basically prepare yourself. And you're going to do that, obviously, in conjunction with your classes. So while you're taking classes, you're getting prepared for the job interview. So you're going to be working with CDS to prepare for the job market. So you're going to be attending the seminars, you're going to be doing mock interviews. All this, it's not learned overnight. So we highly encourage students, and you hear from them during orientation, we highly encourage students to get in touch with them, to check the website for job postings, at least to see what's out there, and really spend the time that you're here going through your program to get ready for your job interviews. That being said, many students arrive here in the fall, just like you will, and we will host a career fair in the fall. Even though you're not ready for a job yet, we recommend that you attend the fair, just to get a feel of what the fair is like, what the environment is going to be like. You will see that all the students that dress very professionally, a suit and a tie, or a dress, a professional dress, or suit for the female students as well. So they really want to impress those recruiters. And it's important for you to attend, as I said, so you get a feel of what it is like. Because then a year from now, when you're actually ready to apply for a job, then you know what is expected of you. Within 2 or 3 months before you graduate, and by the way, many students at NJIT graduate in a year and a half. So even though master's programs are usually a 2-year program, many students graduate sooner than that. And if that's the case, that's okay. You just move up your timeline a little bit. Make sure that as soon as you get to the campus, you know to contact, to start connecting with CDS, and developing those relationships that can take you to a very nice interview later on. But only 2 to 3 months before your graduation is when you're going to submit your OPT application to our office for review. If you decide to apply for CPT, then you apply within the time frame that you're studying. Let's just say after you finish the first semester, for example. But when you graduate, you decide to apply for OPT, then you come to us. And remember that I said it takes the government 2 to 3 months to process applications because they are handling a very large volume of applications. So 2 to 3 months before, you submit your paperwork to us, to our office. We will review it for you. We'll take a look, make sure everything's okay. If it is, we'll give you the okay. You submit it to the government. Then you wait for 2 or 3 months. And that's when you start really going for interviews. You send resumes out. You really start doing much more intense outreach to make sure that when you graduate, hopefully you have a job offer at that point. So the time that you spend between you submit your application and you graduate is not time that you're wasting by any means. It's really time when you are making sure that the connections that you developed the year before, the year and a half before, they really start to pan out now. And that's when you start doing those interviews. And at that time, we should be hosting another career fair on campus. And you hear about it because we advertise all over the campus, but it's important certainly for you to attend at that point to start getting your interviews out. By the way, when those recruiters come to the campus to recruit students, they conduct interviews right then and there at the career fair. Sometimes if they really like the candidate or candidates, they invite them back to their offices for a second round of interviews. Sometimes they offer a position right then and there. So it really depends on the employer, what they're looking for, and how truly you present yourself. Then your graduation date comes, and you finish your degree at NJIT, but you don't have your EAD card yet. The EAD card is basically the governmental approval to your request to work. EAD stands for Employment Authorization Document. So basically, only after you receive this EAD card is that you can work. So even though you applied for your OPT 2 months, 3 months before you graduated, the graduation date comes, doesn't mean that you can work immediately. You need to wait to receive your card. And then we look at the date on your card, only on that date or after that date that you can actually work. So let's just say hypothetically, 1 month after your graduation, you receive your EAD card. Only from that point forward that you can actually work. And usually many times, depending on the time when students apply for their OPT, they select a date that's very close to the graduation date. And if they get the card at that point, they can start working immediately. Other students, because they know how the government sometimes takes 3 months to process the paperwork, they prefer to give themselves a buffer of a month between graduation and start of work. They also need a little bit of a break as well. So whatever date, and we'll walk you through this, but whatever date you select for your employment, once you get your card, you look at the date on the card, that's the date that is your employment date, basically. And in some case, even after you get the card, you're still looking for that one job that you really want. You're sending resumes, meeting for interviews. Perhaps 2 months after graduation, that's when you find your job and you start to work. Because the date on the card indicates from that point forward, you can actually work. So the process, as you can see, it's something that you plan ahead. You don't wake up tomorrow and say, oh, I want to start working right now. It doesn't work like that. And there is a lot of effort that the staff here at NJIT, different offices, we work together to make sure that you're prepared, and when the time comes, you can actually work. But we work together with the students. We cannot prepare ourselves for an interview. We're not interviewing for the job, the students are. So we provide all the tools that we have at our disposal to make sure that students are ready for the interview, are ready for the job. But it's really important that the students get engaged in this process. As you will see when you come here during orientation, you'll be introduced to many different offices, including some of the offices that are involved in the employment aspect of education in the United States. But it's important that you connect with them as well, that you reach out to them, that you go on their website, that you go in their offices, that you meet with your counselor. Every student will have a counselor to assist him or her in this process. We cannot do all the work for you, but we'll assist you as much as you can. But you also need to be involved. It's a process that every single student goes through. It's not difficult. It just requires understanding your timeline and understanding what is required of you. Throughout the semester, our office will host a number of workshops, and we also have information online. We are creating videos as well right now as we speak to put this information out there. So you really have a chance to understand the process, and when it's time for you to apply, you're ready for it. Now, another thing that students ask a lot is H-1B. H-1B is a very different process than OPT. As if you recall, OPT is for students, so you are on a student visa when you are on OPT. H-1B is a very different visa category, is an employment visa. So when you finish your OPT, or actually even prior to your finishing your OPT, if your employer decides that he or she like you very much as an employee, and they want to keep you, because if you remember, OPT has a limit of how much time you can be on OPT, then your employer can sponsor you for the H-1B visa category. It's not something students do themselves, unlike OPT. You're basically sponsoring yourself under OPT, but not under H-1B. So because it has this additional piece of the puzzle, the employer has to apply for you. Not everybody will qualify because not every employer will sponsor a student. OPT is also a system where anyone who graduated from an accredited university in the United States can apply for. There is no limit on how many people can apply for PT, but there is a limit for H-1B. Unfortunately, it's a lottery system because so many people apply. The government allows 65,000 spots for this type of visa, but 200,000 or more applicants apply every year. The numbers keep going up, actually, but roughly 200,000 applicants apply every year. The way that they split the number of spots is 65,000 for people who graduated with a bachelor's degree, and another 20,000 for people who are graduating, students who are graduating, or individuals who are graduating with a master's or PhD degree, individuals who hold those types of degrees. So you definitely have an opportunity to be included in this 85,000. But as I said, there is a cap. There's a limit on how many can apply. The application process starts on April 1st of every month, which is when the fiscal year for the government starts. And the application has to be submitted to USCIS, so the government has to approve it as well, of course. And the students who are selected for the lottery receive a notice. In other words, 200,000 applicants submit an application. They randomly select 85,000. The remaining applicants who are not selected receive the applications back. The government mails the application back, so they know they're not selected for the round of the lotteries. And if the student is selected, the employment under H-1B starts on October 1st. So you don't start immediately because the government has to process it. Not everybody who is selected will actually receive the new visa type. So it's a process where students have to wait to see if they are granted or not, and if they are, they can start employment on October 1st. Just to clarify too, just because students receive a notice, it doesn't mean that they will get the visa. They select more than 85,000. They send a notice to everybody, but then they select only 85,000 to actually get the visa. So it's a process where some students may receive a notice, so they know they're still in the running. Other students will receive the application back, so they know they're not in the running anymore. Now, with H-1B, students or companies, sponsors, can apply more than once. So it's not like a one-time and done. You can apply many times, and certainly depending on the sponsor, if they want you to do it or not. The key piece of this, though, if you are on OPT, you are granted 12 months, and then you apply for a STEM extension, that's another 2 years. So every year, the employer could apply for H-1B for you. Because the lottery system, there is no guarantee that you will get it. So if you are on a STEM extension, if you're, depending on your program, if you can work under OPT for 3 years, then you can apply every year, your employer can apply for you. As I said, application opens on April 1st, but in effect, it also closes on April 1st because everybody submits the application on the same day. So there is really no period, even though technically the application could be open after that. In fact, it's not. So it's really a process that the employer will work with an attorney, an immigration attorney, to submit the paperwork on time, which is April 1st, to make sure the students can get it. Now, in case the students are on OPT and they are selected for the H-1B, the OPT can be extended if the gap between the OPT and October 1st is less than 5 months. In other words, if your OPT ends, let's say hypothetically, in August, and your H-1B starts in October, between August and October is less than 5 months, so the government gives you a permission to continue to work within this time frame until your H-1B kicks in. So as you can see, the process is different, very different than H-1B. At the university at this point is really not involved anymore because it's a different visa category. However, we certainly inform students about that when they're here. We have workshops about that, so they understand the process. So if they want to approach their employer or their sponsor and tell them, I'm interested, would you sponsor me? The students themselves understand what this process is like. We know it's a lot of information, but we certainly will have time for Q&As at the end for questions, and we'll provide some answers. So if you have questions about any of this, definitely write them down, and we'll have a chance to go over them at the end of the presentation. Now we're going to talk about the next steps, and my colleague Julia will share that with you.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Pankaj, are you able to move me to the next slide?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Do you want me to? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Julia.
Great. Thank you. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Julia Trzaskowski. I am the Director of Marketing within the U.S. for Educo Global, but I'm also the person that helps you through the enrollment process for NJIT and ensures that you arrive to campus on time, safely, and register for your classes. So thanks for joining us today, and thanks to Chris for taking so much time to go through the postgraduate work opportunities. Like she said, we'll have a lot of time for us to kind of discuss any questions you guys might have. But I also thought this was a good opportunity just to review any sort of enrollment information and allow anyone to ask questions on what their next steps might be prior to arriving to the US, to NJIT this fall. So I've spoken with many of you. Thank you for always emailing me. And I know you're all at varying stages of the enrollment process. Many of you have already applied for your I-20 from NJIT, which is fantastic. But if you have not, the first thing that you'll want to do is to submit bank documents to your agent or to me directly and complete the I-20 application form for NJIT. What this then allows us to do is to submit those documents to NJIT and to request that your I-20 is processed. It typically takes about a week and a half for us to then receive your CVIS ID and your tracking information for your acceptance package. At that time, we will actually email you directly with that information so that you can book your visa appointment while you wait for your application or your acceptance package to arrive to your house. The second thing that you want to do, and actually step 1 and step 2 are slightly interchangeable, is you want to submit your tuition deposit of $250. This is a non-refundable deposit for NJIT, and it does 2 things. It tells us that you are a serious NJIT applicant, and it also acts as your registration for the International Student Orientation. I've included the link here on where you'd want to go to submit your deposit, so you're welcome to copy and paste that. If you have questions on how to do that, or if you need to confirm your student ID number, you are more than welcome to email me and I can help you through the process. The tuition deposit is due by June 1st, so if you have any questions regarding that deadline, you're also welcome to email me. So you have your I-20, you've made your deposit, you're now holding your visa appointment. Once your visa is approved, you then can move into the next steps in terms of planning your arrival to campus this fall. The first thing that you'll want to do is gain any medical clearance. And what this means is that you need to submit immunization forms, or essentially your physical exam information, to NJIT. I've included the link here that has information for this as well, and it will show you how to download the immunization form, where to submit it, and then the health insurance options once you arrive here on campus. Step 4 is to submit your final transcript. So NJIT offers its admissions contingent upon satisfactory completion of your academic work that's currently in process, or which most of you just finished. So it is your responsibility to ensure that that final official transcript is then forwarded to NJIT and their Office of Admissions. You need to do this prior to registration in order to confirm your attendance. Again, if you have questions on how to do this, you're welcome to email me. You're also welcome to have the official transcripts forwarded to me, and then I can talk to you about the next steps of how to send those to the Office of Admissions. Keep in mind, I know we have a small number of transfer students that are on the line today, that if you're a transfer student, in order for you to then have a review of your transcripts for transfer credits, we do require a course-by-course evaluation by WES, and you must submit that prior to registration so that we know what will transfer in and we can avoid those classes when registering you this fall. Okay, move to the next slide. Pankaj, can you move me, or can somebody? Thank you, guys. Great. So finally, just some important dates to keep in mind as you plan for this upcoming fall semester. Again, the deposit deadline, that $250, is due on June 1st, just a couple weeks from now. Your new student orientation week, which is required for all international students, begins on August 28th. So you want to ensure that you have arrived in the US by that date so that you can attend this orientation week. Like Chris mentioned, her office holds a lot of information sessions for students, but this is also when you will register for your classes, meet with your faculty and your department. So extremely important that you attend. August 28th will appear as the first date on your I-20. You are eligible to arrive within the US only 30 days prior to that date. So you can arrive to the US earlier than the 28th. Your first day of classes then are actually on September 5th, so that following week. I've included a link here on how you can register for an upcoming webinar with NJIT's admissions staff. It's just an opportunity to speak with more staff on NJIT's campus and to ask any other additional questions that you might have that are not going to be addressed today. The link is here, but I'm also, again, very happy to help you guys register for that event. They're very well attended and informative, so I would encourage you to attend as many of these webinars that we invite you to as possible so that you make connections to NJIT prior to arriving on campus. So with that, I will say thank you and open it up to some questions. I know we probably have most that are pending for Chris, but we are more than happy to take some time to answer questions. And as Pankaj alluded to, if we do not answer all of your questions by the 10:30 cutoff here in the US, then we will keep a list of those questions. Chris and I will then both address them and make sure that we get the answers to you and to anyone else that might have the questions. So thank you, guys.
Wonderful. Thank you, Julia. As Julia said, if anybody has a question, please type them up and we'll be very happy to answer them right now.
All right, so thanks, Chris and Julia. That's a lot of information. Now it's time to take questions. So the first question I can see is, does MIS comes under STEM category?
Yes, it does. That's a STEM.
And
Pankaj, I'm sorry.
all right.
We have a list on our website, njit.edu/global. If students go on the website, they'll be able to see a list of all the majors that are considered STEM. So if anybody else has this particular question, our website has a list, and I'll be happy to share with Julia as well, so she can share with everyone else.
All right, so second question is again in regards to MIS program. So students just want to check what are the job prospects after completing MIS with NJIT.
This is a question that I get a lot, and students say, how can I find a job? Is it easy? The truth of the matter is, it really depends on the candidate. There are jobs available. The question is, are you going to be prepared to take that job offer? We cannot say for sure this job has more opportunities than that other job. NJIT, being a science university, all the science programs will have good prospects. But the question is, are you attending the workshops to teach you how to write your resume in the way American employers want? Are you attending the workshops to prepare you for the job interviews? Are you going to the fair? Are you learning how to write a cover letter? Those are things that we teach students after they get here. So I can say that, yes, the job prospects are very good, but depends on the candidate. As I said, we cannot promise anyone a job because the companies are going to be comparing students. So it's really up to you to make sure that you are as well prepared as you can be to be ready for the job offer.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So the next question is MIS more towards management or oriented program, or it's a software knowledge oriented program?
I would say it's more software knowledge program.
Okay. Okay, so the next question is, how about scholarships for MIS course? If somebody is having previous job experience, so will they be eligible for some sort of scholarships?
NJIT does not, at this point, does not offer any specific scholarships for MIS students, especially at the master's level. So when we're reviewing candidates, we don't really look very much at prior work experience. It's mostly a question of, test scores and overall academic profile. That being said, I'm in the Office of Global Initiatives, not exactly admissions. So Julian and I can check with our colleagues in admissions to make sure of, if there's anything additional that they would consider. But my understanding is that professional experience does not count very much.
All right, thank you. So the next question is if someone is having previous work experience in some other countries, so that will counted in US as well. So will that help in students getting jobs when they are in USA?
I would say that that is certainly something that employers may look at. Unlike a university that is looking at academic profile, an employer may very well want to see what kind of professional experience you have somewhere else. So when you're going to create your resume, certainly I would encourage you to put all the relevant professional experience that you have. If it's in India or in Brazil or in any country, so employers can have a better idea of what you can or cannot do, what you have or don't have experience with. So I would not disregard that information when applying for a job.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So next question is, how good are part-time jobs within campus?
And the part-time job on campus, it really depends on which offices are hiring at that time. Usually the biggest number of openings is in the fall, but this is something that each office has control over. So again, if the students look at the CDS website, and just so you can start getting familiar with it now, is the website is njit.edu/CDS. They will post on-campus positions as well. So there are many prospects of positions on campus, but it depends on what the office is looking for. The on-campus job does not have to be related to the major, but certain offices may have a specific need. For example, the financial aid office may want to hire someone who has a little bit of a background in finance, or somebody who worked in a bank before, something like this. That other offices like mine may not need that. So it really depends on what kind of experience that particular office needs in order to hire the student. But certainly, you're welcome to apply as soon as you get on campus.
All right, thank you. So next question is, how are the job opportunities for the student going to study engineering management in NJIT?
And I'm sorry, but it's the same answer as I did for MIS. It depends on the student. It's not possible for us to say this position, this major hires more than this other. It really depends on the candidate. There could be 50 openings for engineering and only 30 for MIS, but the MIS students are much more better prepared because they attended all these workshops, so they all get a job. As the engineering students, for example, who didn't get as well prepared, they don't get the jobs. So it's difficult for us to say which one has a better potential to get a job. It depends on the student. The jobs are available, but you have to prepare yourself to make sure that you can get the job.
All right. So the next question is the internship assistance available to all the students or only to the selected ones?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Internship what?
Internship assistant is available for all students in NJIT?
Internships? Yes.
Yep.
No, they're open to anyone. Now, it really depends on what particular field they're in. And because an internship is basically work off campus many times, they just have to qualify for that. On campus, employment on campus, for example, working at a lab with a professor or doing research with a professor on campus, that is a traditional on-campus employment, so that does not require additional approvals to get that job.
All right, got it. Thank you. So next question is like, student is saying that he has received $2,000 scholarship, and is he eligible for in-state fee?
A good question. In-state fee is only for New Jersey residents, people who lived in New Jersey for over a number of years. So any international student coming to New Jersey will have to pay the out-of-state tuition. And that actually applies not only to students coming from other countries, but students coming from other states. A student coming from California will pay the same rate as an international student because they're not in-state.
Okay, got it. So the next question is, student is asking where I can get industrial engineering curriculum or syllabus on NJIT website.
The syllabus, it will depend on each class that you take. There isn't one master syllabus, but the curriculum, it's going to be on our website, njit.edu, and then on the main page, click on academics. That will take you to all the colleges that we have here, and then click on Newark College of Engineering. And then you'll see all the majors that that particular school offers. So the website is definitely the main source of information because everything is posted there.
Okay, got it. So next question is that will there be management courses in MIS?
That's a very good question. And I would ask you to refer to the website. I don't know the particulars of every single program at NJIT, which classes are offered for each program. So I would say check the website. If you cannot find the answer, as Julia mentioned, reach out to our colleagues in admissions, or you can, of course, reach out to Julia as well, and then we'll contact the department more specifically.
Okay, so next question is from the student. He's asking, is ranking really important when they look forward for the jobs in USA?
Excellent.
They mean the program ranking and the institution ranking.
That's a very good question. Rankings are not a big deal in the United States, quite frankly. In many other countries, rankings is used as a way to gauge how good the school is. But in the United States, schools are recognized by their name. And when the students graduate from NJIT, companies know our school, they know the reputation of the programs. So by just the sheer fact of your saying you graduated from NJIT, it's a very good sign. So companies don't say, is this a number 2 school, a tier 1 school? Companies don't normally say that. And to be very honest, the companies that are coming to recruit on our campus, they have a very long relationship with us. And that's why they keep coming back. So the truth of the matter is, it won't really make much of a difference what the ranking is. Despite of our ranking being high, companies don't ask those questions here.
Okay, so next question is like, will current government might change rules about OPT and H1B? Will that affect international students coming to US?
Can you repeat the beginning of the question? I didn't understand.
So student is trying to ask that if current government change the rules for OPT and H1B, will that affect international students coming to USA?
This is a question that I got a lot when I was in India recently. The answer is those changes, those rules that govern H1B and a student visa, for them to change, the government has to have Congress make those changes. It's not something that the president can do it himself. And for that to happen, it will take a long time because our Congress here right now is really not working properly. They have a lot of, there are different factions within within Congress, and most likely wouldn't take place anywhere soon. So there has to be a lot of discussion within Congress, and then, if at all, those things would pass and take a long time. So students who are starting now this fall, quite frankly, we don't think they would be impacted by anything if something even happens at all. The government is not functioning properly, as I'm sure many students are seeing on TV right now. So it's not a concern that we have. It would take years, if at all, for anything to happen. That being said, of course, it's the government. So the universities in the United States are in the same situation as students. We're waiting to hear from the government. We cannot say for sure that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, things are not going to change because we are not the government. So any information that we have is the information that is available publicly. We don't get any special information from the government. And we're really working with students to make sure that, one, we advocate for them with the government to the students' best interest. And number two, we prepare students while the regulations are in place as they are to be able to benefit from them, to be able to get a job, to hopefully apply for H-1B. And God knows where they go from there. But certainly we're working very closely with the students, immigration attorneys, and everybody that we can, advocacy groups, to make sure that we keep our students informed.
Okay, thank you. So next question is, how safe is NJIT campus for international students?
Actually, we're in a very safe location. Newark is a somewhat large city for New Jersey standards. It's probably, I would say, maybe the second largest city in the state. But that being said, it's of course nothing like New York City or Delhi or those large cities. But just like any city, we educate students about being mindful of their surroundings. Part of orientation is to have our public safety officers come and talk to students about being aware. Just like in many major cities around the world, you wouldn't walk by yourself at night in a very dark alley. So we give students hints about what to do to keep themselves safe. And basically they have to use common sense. Not have very expensive jewelry at night walking by themselves and things like that. But overall, we can say that it's a very safe place. On campus, we have a public safety officers patrolling the campus 24 hours, 7 days a week. And they work also closely with the township police force. So if your students are even off campus, we know about and we work with them to provide information. So I would say overall, it's a safe location. You just have to be mindful as you would anywhere else.
All right, thank you. So next question is like, do we have high probability of securing H-1B visa if someone work in the big 500 Fortune companies in USA?
I wish I had a very good answer for that, but I don't, because as I said before, it's a lottery system. So you can work for the biggest company in the world, but you have to be selected by luck. It's sheer luck. There is no other explanation. And the government has just, you know, openly said it's a lottery system. So we can never say for sure what are your chances depending on the company that you work for. You may work for a very small company here in Newark and get selected and get the H-1B, as opposed to someone who is a major corporation like Google or Facebook. Facebook is a very good recruiter for us, and you cannot get it. So we can never guarantee. But what we tell students is the more you apply, the bigger chances you have. So if you recall one of the slides that I showed, if you apply for STEM, you really have 3 chances to apply. 1 year during OPT and then twice again during your STEM. So the point is, don't wait until your very last year of employment to ask the employer if they want to sponsor you. Feel free to ask them, and if they show interest, then you pursue that. Because the more times that you apply, of course, the bigger will be your chances to get it.
All right, thank you. So next question is, what percentage of MIS students get placed in NJIT? Is there any campus placement procedures?
That's an excellent question. I have to get back to you on that one. I'm not sure how many MIS students get placed. That's under the purview of the Career Development Services Office. I will have to check with them. I'm not really sure.
All right, so next question is with regards to civil engineering. So what are the placement chances once student complete their civil engineering in NJIT?
All the students have fair chances because we work very hard. Once again, it is the student's responsibility to be prepared for the job interviews. But the Career Development Services Office will list all the positions that are open right now, and they go from across the campus, all kinds of majors, and these companies will come to hire students. So I cannot say for sure how many students have been placed or how many jobs are available, because it will vary. Every semester will be different. It's really a question of the students being prepared, so when the opportunity comes, they're ready for it.
All right, so next question is in terms of accommodation. So students want to know how to book an apartment in NJIT and what other residential opportunities are available for students other than hostel.
That's a very good question. After you pay your deposit, as Julia mentioned, students will start getting a series of emails from us. Emails about, for example, orientation, getting ready to apply for a visa, and one of those emails about housing. We have if you go on the website, njit.edu/reslife, RESLIFE, you will have a chance to see actually 3D mock-ups of the rooms. And we do have housing available on campus for graduate students. As a matter of fact, I highly recommend all students to live on campus at least the first year, so you get situated, you get to know what the area is like, you get to make friends on campus. It's certainly much better than arriving here at NJIT in New Jersey and not knowing where you're going to live. We have students who arrive literally from the airport to the campus and say, I don't know where I'm spending the night tonight. And that's very concerning to us. We are very concerned about that, because then you have to stay anywhere you find. If you make arrangements right now to stay on campus, then you know where you're going to sleep that night when you arrive. Information is about how to select housing is on the website. As I mentioned, njit.edu/reslife. And then there's an application process that you have to fill out the application, and they'll ask you all kinds of questions, and then you submit the application. And it's basically a contract that you sign with the housing department. And then at least you have the guarantee of knowing where you're going to be for that 1 year. If you decide to move off campus later, then you can. You don't have to stay here for the entire year or the entire program that you're here. but it's important that, you figure out where you're going to live before you get here.
Okay, got it. So next question is, if I resided on H4 visa status in New Jersey for more than 1 year, so in that case, will that student be eligible for in-state tuition fee at NJIT?
That's a good question, and my answer is I don't think so. I believe, and I would have to check with the financial aid office, I believe H4, because you have just arrived in the country, it still would be considered an international student / out-of-state tuition. In order to be considered in-state, my understanding is you have to have lived in New Jersey for a certain amount of time. I can check with them, and I can let Julia know, and Julia can reach out to this participant and inform them.
All right, so next question is in regards to undergraduate section. So student want to know what sort of undergraduate scholarships are available.
Undergraduate scholarships are based on academic profile, and I will have to defer to my colleagues in admissions to answer to those questions. My office doesn't really oversee scholarships, but certainly we can share that information with Julia, and she can get back to everyone.
Chris, I'm happy to address just briefly. And if the student is interested in talking to me a little bit more directly, so as an EDUCO applicant, you're eligible for an EDUCO scholarship dependent upon the date that you applied to NJIT. And then if you've submitted SAT scores, you're then eligible for institutional aid as well. So if the student that's asking the question would like to email me directly, I'll put my email again. I have it right here actually posted, but that's the incorrect email. I apologize. So I'll post my email in the comments here, Pinkett, so that everybody can email me with that question. For the undergraduate students, like Chris just said, it does really depend upon your academic credentials. So I could help you then look back at what you've submitted to NJIT during the admissions process and better clarify what you're eligible for.
Okay, thanks Julia, and thanks Chris. So we need to wrap up here. So thanks everyone for making this session successful. So there are a lot of questions which remains unattended. So we're gonna get back to each of you through email with the answers. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you, Julia. And thank you everybody for attending today.
Great. Thank you, Chris, very much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.